Your cult boyfriend talking about the bridge on the River Kwai, starring William Holden and Alec Guinness. It's a David Lean masterpiece. It's wonderful. It's a completely phenomenal, beautiful, compelling, and sophisticated work of art. I love it so much. Alec Guinness, man, really, he really gave some of the best performances in cinema history, huh? And his work here is as Colonel Nicholson's no different. This is one of the best performances I've ever seen, and it's Alec Guinness as Nicholson here. It's phenomenally compelling and soul stirring, heartbreaking. I think that David Lean's masterworks like Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia, Brief Encounter, Dr. Zhivago, I think they're more compelling and sophisticated than even the most impenetrable Kubrick film, for instance. And I, if I had editing capabilities, would make tireless, exhaustive uh, analysis videos about David Lean because I feel like there's almost an infinite number of ways to view these kind of semi-secret metaphorical storylines throughout his work, specifically Lawrence of Arabia and Bridge on the River Kwai. I feel like there's a bunch of different ways to go about this bridge that was built by British POWs within a Japanese prison camp. Um, what does the bridge represent? Is it a sign of collaboration with the enemy, or is all labor a sign of collaboration with the enemy? It's like let's just look at like a few of the different ways to go about viewing this metaphor, which I think is the best cinematic metaphor ever captured on film. David Lean through Alec Guinness's performance, through Nicholson's devotion to this folly, to this foolishness that is the bridge. I mean, it's heart shattering stuff, and I feel like it could be some great discourse here. Because what does the bridge represent? The bridge, for Nicholson, right? It could represent transcending, transforming defeat into success, surviving with dignity. But is it truly dignified to build a bridge better than your enemies could have done it? Is it truly dignified for you to bring your own sick and disabled, your own officers, and have them do manual labor? Is it truly dignified? Or is it like Jean Renoir would say, who David Lean quite liked this film I'm going to reference right now, is that part of the grand illusion? The grand illusion being that war accomplishes anything. That's illusory, that's a complete lie. So maybe there is no transformative power within war to turn defeat into success. Maybe that's a complete illusion, a delusion. I would call Nicholson a delusional person, and I do believe it is betrayal near the end. That's me personally speaking. I mean, you can even have like an anarchist viewpoint of it that most labor is alienated from the worker. So if you involve the worker within the worker is no longer alienated from the labor, but the labor itself is foolish. The labor itself is of folly. The labor itself means nothing, absolutely nothing. Because it could have a nihilistic bent to it as well. But I think what it's saying is you can't transform something like the gruesome carnage of war or the horrors of a POW camp into something that is symbolic or in any way helpful emotionally. There's a character called Clifton in this film who is probably the most relatable character possible. He's uh, he's a British doctor in the POW camp, and he doesn't agree with Nicholson and thinks it's all madness. Famously, he has the last lines of the film when everyone's fucking dead, and just goes madness, madness. Because he's saying to Nicholson at least twice they have an exchange where Nicholson's like that this is tantamount to collaboration. But must we build the bridge so well, better than they could have done it? And I don't want to be here for the celebration of the bridge. I'd rather watch from a hill. I don't want to be a part of it. What does the bridge represent? That bridge could represent that thing inside of all of us. Um, that statue to our lives. That token the tokenization of living, right? It's about leaving something behind, something sturdy, something impressive. It's about the every man's quest to leave something for people to look back at, but not only look back at, but to have practical use of, something they could both use and be in awe of. It's about legacy. It's about the masculine legacy and how you must destroy it. You must destroy it because masculine legacy is all built within captivity, and it's that's not just a captivity of capitalism. I believe it's a captivity of emotional war, because we're all in captivity of something, and we're trying to build these icons, or trying to build an iconography of legacy to leave behind to people, and we become the villains of our own life's arc, or maybe of nature's arc, or maybe of this grand scheme of a divine biblical narrative that we know nothing about, and we must fall on our own sword. We must blow it up ourselves because it has to be blown up anyway, because leaving behind a legacy is folly, leaving behind legacy is foolishness, leaving behind legacy is not only narcissistic, but it could be narcissistically revealing. It could expose you for all of your emotional vulnerabilities. What else could this bridge represent? This bridge could represent a trauma. This bridge can represent the traumatic effects of war, and how it is actually not transformed defeat into success, but that defeat can be transformed into nothing but dynamite. It's this foolish patriotism, that we believe, which is definitely illusory. That this bridge was built by British soldiers. Our chaps did a fine bloody well job. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? Patriotism is illusory. Legacy is illusory. Masculine legacy is illusory. It's a fascinatingly complex film. There are countless amounts of ways to look at this bridge, but I believe in every single reading, Nicholson is a villain. I personally consider Nicholson one of the greatest villains in history, in film history. And it's telegraphed from the start because he's not only buying into the illusion, he's an illusionist. Is so good at it that he's even tricked himself. I love his monologue over the bridge with Saito, where Saito's talking about the sun in the sky and remarking at how beautiful it is, and Nicholson believes that Saito's talking about the bridge itself, and he's like, "Yes, quite a lovely, remarkable work of craftsmanship." And he talks about legacy. That's why I think it's probably about legacy, especially masculine legacy, or maybe hyper literally the legacy of war, which is not legacy at all, but rather a reminder of human failure, as demonstrated by the blowing up of this bridge within a failure of a commando op. But still, that monologue that Nicholson has, when we really just see him from the back, because David Lean was so good at emotionality, because when the characters are most emotional, they're not incredibly vulnerable. Like, they're not facing us. We're seeing him from the back, which could be more vulnerable, because it's like we're sneaking up on him when he's not emotionally ready for it. It could work either way, honestly. He's just not being incredibly forward with us. But he's talking about legacy and how he would compare himself to others within the same career, and he's been the armed forces for 28 years at that point. And have I made any bit of change in this world? But on days like these, on days like this, he probably feels like he has, because he's standing on a monument to his own worth. And when William Holden, an escapee of the POW camp, an American one, and Jack Hawkins and a Joyce, a Canadian commando, come to blow it up, Nicholson outright tries to sabotage it. They're trying to sabotage his worth, his monument, his legacy, or I mean, I think metaphorically, the legacy of war, or just legacy as a concept, just legacy. They're coming to destroy that notion, but it's all that Nicholson has. It's the only thing that has kept him sane in an insane world. Um, so he tries to sabotage their sabotaging of the bridge, and he gets everyone killed, every single person killed. And I think it's a treacherous, villainous thing to do. It was cool seeing Sasui Hayakawa, um, legendary silent film star as Saito here. I know that Lean had a difficult time compelling a good performance from him, but you can see where the silent film star still had that essence near the second half of the film. The second half of his performance is largely silent because he's become emasculated. He's become demoralized by the prisoners. The prison warden has become demoralized by how great his prisoners are. That's insane. That's really interesting too. But his performance turns into a silent one. I mean, like pathos. Saito is so overwhelming with the defeat and pathos and pity that it's almost uncontrollably visceral. You can feel the texture of that man's grief. You really can. Bridge on the River Kwai is phenomenally filmed. It's phenomenally thought out. It's a beautiful film. It's very watchable. I've watched it several times just in the last few days. It's highly entertaining, but it's also got that, that bridge to me is more fascinating than any fucking monolith could ever be, okay? That bridge, because that bridge, we're all guilty of that bridge. We all have that bridge. We all have some folly, some foolishness inside of all of us, or maybe it's a shared thing. We're all holding up this illusory, like stupid monument to something that means nothing, to nothingness. That bridge, we are all guilty of building some sort of bridge, and we're all guilty of trying to defend it at all costs. When really that bridge is going to destroy us, and we won't have legacy. Legacy, ironically, is for the living, and in war, there is no legacy but cruelty. Lean for he was vehemently anti-war, which I think should be the norm with human beings. But I remember some of the first drafts of the script that he got for this picture. He was saying, "No, no, this is either too satirical or this is almost romanticizing war in 1957 at a time where I think it would be morally reprehensible to do so." So he never wanted to make a film that glorified war or glorified carnage, glorified murder. So he didn't. He never did. Bridge on the River Kwai, I think, deeply opens up a soulful discourse with its audience. Because that bridge is not just a bridge. That bridge is everything and nothing. And that bridge must be destroyed. I'm completely impressed by Bridge on the River Kwai. It's a shockingly good, one of the best films ever made for sure. Alec Guinness's performance, such a multifaceted, multi-layered character, an individual who you understand every step of the way into more and more of his delusions and his foolishness. To see him slip and slip and slip, but then you realize he was already slipping from the start. He hadn't gone mad. This isn't madness. It only seems like madness now, Clifton, and me and the audience who agrees with Clifton at the end of the film. It's just madness now because that is the only natural conclusion that could come from such folly, from such foolishness. The only, like, logical end is madness. Alec Guinness is perfect at telegraphing emotionality, especially the heartbreaking kind of emotionality. His emotions break my fucking heart. His performance just completely collapses my spirit, breaks me down, and I go, I get it. I get it. We all have those bridges. But then William Holden's performance is so great too when he's crawling and dying because he just wants to kill this fucker. We want to bring down the bridge and they go, you. And he dies, and it's all Nicholson's fault. Dying for nothing. Legacy must be destroyed, especially legacy of war, and in a large way we've all benefited from the legacy of war. All bridges must be destroyed, all bridges must be burnt, all bridges must go down. Do it now. Don't wait for the train. Blow that fucker up. Smithereens to kingdom come. The hell with the bridge. We all have a bridge over River Kwai. We all have a bridge on it. Get rid of it. Please. Please. I'm just thinking of Alec Guinness saying, "What have I done?" as he tumbles backwards and dies, falling on the detonator. David Lean's a complete genius. A masterpiece. The best film of the 50s. Most likely. Most likely. Thanks for watching me, you guys. Like I said, I could do hours upon hours of analysis videos about this film because I feel like there's a secret visual or metaphorical, subtextual level and language being employed here by Lee. But I'm not good at editing. So, incoherent babble, that's what you're gonna get instead from YCBF, bro.